Number 1. The Cavini C6W doesn't arrive like a normal car. It doesn't glide into your perception the way a Ferrari or a Lamborghini does, with familiar proportions and predictable beauty. No, it interrupts you. It forces your brain to stop, to rewind, to question what it just saw. 6 wheels. Not as a gimmick, not as some wild concept sketch that should have stayed on paper, but as a fully realized road-going machine built by Cavini Engineering, a company bold enough, or perhaps stubborn enough, to believe that the world had settled too comfortably on 4 wheels. And when you first see it in motion, something strange happens. You don't immediately notice all 6 wheels. Your eyes catch the front end and then hesitate. There's a visual delay, like your mind is buffering reality. 4 wheels up front create this dense, planted look, like the car is clawing at the road, gripping it before the rest of the body even commits to moving forward. It feels intelligent. Not in a technological sense, but in a physical one, like every inch of it is thinking ahead. The idea wasn't born in a vacuum. Decades earlier, engineers had already flirted with this madness in Formula One, most famously with the Tyrrell P34. That car wasn't built to be strange, it was built to be faster. Smaller front wheels reduced drag. More tires meant more grip under braking. It was logic taken to its extreme. The Cavini simply asked a dangerous question. What if that logic never stopped? What if you kept pushing it? So they did. 4 front wheels mean 4 contact patches biting into the asphalt when you slam the brakes at high speed. Where a normal supercar might start to feel light, maybe even nervous, the C6W stays composed, almost unnervingly so. Owners have described it as refusing to panic. One driver, after a high-speed run, stepped out of the car and said, half joking, half serious, "It doesn't feel like you're driving fast. It feels like the road slowed down for you." That's the illusion it creates. And yet, the car doesn't look fast in the traditional sense. It looks complicated, overthought, like a machine designed by someone who didn't trust simplicity. The front end, with its tightly packed wheels, almost resembles a piece of machinery more than a car. Something industrial, something precise, something that belongs on a test track rather than an open road. And still, it works. Beneath that unconventional body sits a familiar kind of brutality, an Audi-derived V8 pushing serious power through a lightweight chassis. But again, the numbers don't define the experience. Because when you're inside it, you're not thinking about horsepower or acceleration figures. You're thinking about the way it holds the road. There's a story from an early owner who took the car through a series of mountain curves, tight, unforgiving corners where most cars demand respect, where even experienced drivers feel that slight tension in their hands. After the drive, he reportedly said, "I kept waiting for it to lose grip, but it never did. It just kept asking for more." That's the dangerous part, because a car like this doesn't scare you into slowing down. It convinces you that you don't need to. And maybe that's why it never became mainstream. Not just because it was expensive or rare or difficult to maintain, but because it challenged something deeper. It challenged the idea that cars should feel familiar, predictable, safe in their behavior even when they're fast. The Cavini isn't predictable. It's a question on wheels. Why stop at 4? Why accept limits that were never truly proven? And yet, despite all its brilliance, all its obsession with grip and control, it remains a ghost in the automotive world. Built in tiny numbers, seen by few, understood by even fewer. The kind of car that appears once in a while at a show, in a video, passing silently on a distant road, and leaves people unsure of what they just witnessed. One mechanic who worked briefly around the car once said, "It feels like an answer to a question nobody asked anymore." And maybe that's exactly what makes it special.
Because just when you think you've reached the edge of automotive logic, when you believe nothing could feel stranger, more unnecessary, more brilliantly excessive than a six-wheeled supercar, something else appears. Something smaller, something that doesn't just bend logic but completely ignores it. A machine so simple, so absurd that it makes the Cavini feel like over-engineering. Because if the C6W feels like a car that thinks too much, the next one feels like it never thought at all, and somehow survived anyway.
Number 2. The Bruch Mopeda doesn't roll into a scene. It almost apologizes for being there. You don't hear it before you see it. There's no deep exhaust note, no mechanical drama, no sense of presence building in the distance. It simply appears, small, rounded, almost fragile, like something that wasn't meant to survive in the same world as full-sized cars. And for a moment, you wonder if it actually does. Built by Bruch in the uneasy years of post-war Europe, the Mopeda wasn't chasing performance, luxury, or even comfort. It was chasing possibility. The idea that mobility could be stripped down to its absolute core and still function. But the result didn't look like a car that had been simplified. It looked like a car that had been shrunk by mistake. From a distance, it resembles a toy someone left behind, something colorful and harmless. But as you step closer, details begin to emerge. The body is a single flowing piece of fiberglass, smooth and curved like a bathtub turned upside down and given wheels. There are no sharp lines, no aggressive angles, nothing that suggests speed or power. Just soft, rounded optimism, frozen in place. And then you notice the scale. It's smaller than you expected, much smaller. The kind of small that makes you instinctively look around, as if the rest of the car might still be missing. Getting into it isn't a normal action, it's a negotiation. You don't open a door, you don't step in, you lower yourself into it, carefully, almost respectfully, like you're entering something delicate. And once you're inside, the world changes proportions. Everything feels too big. The steering wheel seems oversized, dominating the tiny cockpit like it belongs to another vehicle entirely. Your knees sit closer than they should. The edge of the body wraps around you in a way that feels more like being inside an object than inside a machine. And then there's the exposure. No real roof, minimal windshield, no sense of separation from the outside world. Wind doesn't pass over the Mopeda, it collides with you. Every movement, every shift in speed, every tiny bump in the road is felt directly, honestly, without any filter. It doesn't isolate you from the experience of driving, it throws you into it. People didn't just question it, they reacted to it. There's a story from a small European motor show where the moped was displayed among more conventional vehicles. Larger cars drew admiration, technical questions, respectful nods. But the mopeda, it drew laughter. Not cruel, not dismissive, just genuine confusion mixed with amusement. One man reportedly stood there for a long moment, hands on his hips, steadying it as if trying to solve a puzzle. Then he finally said, almost to himself, "This isn't a car. This is an idea that got out of control." Another asked the question that followed the mopeda everywhere. Where do you even go in something like that? And the honest answer? Not far. But distance was never the point. Owners, rare as they were, quickly realized that driving a mopeda wasn't about reaching a destination. It was about the journey becoming an event. One owner once said, "You plan a 5-minute trip and it turns into 30 because nobody lets you pass without reacting." Another laughed, remembering how strangers would wave, point, even walk alongside the car just to understand what they were looking at. You don't drive it through the world, you drag the world into your moment. And that's exactly what it does. The mopeda turns ordinary roads into stages.
Every intersection becomes a conversation. Every stoplight becomes a performance. It doesn't demand attention. It naturally creates it, simply by existing in a way that feels almost impossible. And yet, beneath the humor, beneath the spectacle, there's something quietly profound about it. Because in a time when the automotive world was beginning to dream bigger, more power, more size, more ambition, the Mopeda went in the opposite direction. It asked a question that most manufacturers were too busy to consider. How little do you actually need? Not want, need. And the answer it gave wasn't perfect, it wasn't practical, it wasn't even particularly successful, but it was honest, brutally honest. A machine reduced to its barest purpose, with nothing left to hide behind. It doesn't pretend to be powerful. It doesn't pretend to be comfortable. It doesn't pretend to be anything more than what it is. And somehow, that makes it unforgettable. Because long after you've seen faster cars, louder cars, more beautiful cars, you remember the Mopeda. Not for what it achieved, but for what it dared to be. A car that feels like it shouldn't exist, and yet does. But then, the camera begins to move again. The laughter fades into the background. The smallness disappears, and something else replaces it. Something stretched, something impossibly smooth. A shape that doesn't look assembled, but sculpted, like wind itself decided to become metal. Long, low, uninterrupted lines that flow from front to back, without hesitation, without compromise. No awkwardness, no humor, no apology, just intention. Where the Mopeda feels like an accident that somehow made it onto the road, this machine feels like the result of absolute control, of designers and engineers chasing something almost unnatural. Perfection, not in function alone, but in form. It doesn't invite questions, it silences them. Because when you see it, you don't laugh, you don't even speak. You just stare and wonder how something so smooth could feel so alien at the same time.
Number 3. The GM Firebird 1 doesn't look like it belongs on a road, it looks like it missed a runway. Unveiled by General Motors in the early 1950s, at a time when the world was still intoxicated by the possibilities of jet propulsion, the Firebird 1 wasn't just a concept car, it was a translation of aviation obsession into something that barely resembled an automobile. Long before futuristic design became a marketing phrase, this machine redefined what the future could even look like. From the side, it's unmistakable. A narrow fuselage instead of a body, a single-seat cockpit enclosed in a bubble canopy, swept-back fins that feel less like styling choices and more like aerodynamic necessities, and at the rear, not an engine in the traditional sense, but a turbine, a true gas turbine derived from aircraft technology, spinning at incredible speeds, producing a sound that wasn't a roar or a growl, but a high-pitched, almost eerie whine. It didn't sound alive, it sounded mechanical in the purest sense, cold, precise, unfamiliar. And that's what made it so unsettling. Because when you approached the Firebird 1, you weren't approaching a car you understood, you were approaching something experimental, something that felt like it belonged to a different category entirely. The kind of machine that didn't promise comfort or reliability, but promised discovery. Climbing into it wasn't like getting into a car, it was like entering a cockpit. The canopy lifted, exposing a single seat surrounded by controls that felt more aviation than automotive. The steering wasn't just a wheel, it was part of a system designed to interpret motion differently. The entire experience was centered, focused, almost isolating. There was no room for passengers, no room for distraction, just the driver and the idea. And that idea was radical. A turbine engine in a car.
No pistons, no traditional combustion cycles, just a continuous flow of air and fuel, compressed, ignited, and expelled in a smooth, relentless stream of energy. It promised fewer vibrations, fewer moving parts, and a kind of mechanical elegance that piston engines could never achieve. But reality had other plans. The heat generated by the turbine was immense. The fuel consumption was impractical. Throttle response behaved differently, less immediate, more delayed, almost as if the car needed time to think before reacting. And then there was the question of safety. This wasn't just an engine, it was essentially a jet engine sitting behind the driver, operating in conditions that normal roads were never designed to accommodate. One engineer reflecting on the project years later said something that perfectly captured its spirit. We weren't building a car, we were testing an idea. And that idea was never meant to survive unchanged. Because the Firebird 1 wasn't about production, it was about pushing boundaries so far that they broke just to see what lay beyond them. There are stories from early demonstrations where people didn't know how to react. Some were amazed, others were confused, a few were even uncomfortable, standing at a distance as the turbine spooled up, unsure if they were witnessing the birth of something revolutionary or something that should never leave the test environment. One observer reportedly said, "It feels like the car doesn't belong to us yet." And maybe it didn't. Because the Firebird 1 wasn't designed for the present, it was aimed at a future that never fully arrived. A world where turbine-powered cars might have replaced conventional engines, where highways might have evolved to accommodate machines that behaved more like aircraft than automobiles. But that world never came. The idea was too extreme, too impractical, too far ahead, or perhaps too far removed from what people actually needed. And so the Firebird 1 remained what it was always destined to be, a symbol, a moment in time when engineers were allowed to dream without limits, when the question wasn't, will this work, but what happens if it does? And for a brief moment, that idea took physical form. A jet-powered car, a glimpse into a future that flickered into existence and then quietly disappeared. But as the echo of that turbine fades, as the vision of speed shaped by aviation dissolves into memory, something else emerges. Not loud, not aggressive, but impossibly refined. Long lines, flowing curves, a presence that doesn't demand attention, but quietly holds it. Elegant in a way that feels deliberate, yet slightly unsettling, as if there's something beneath the surface that doesn't quite follow the rules. Because this next machine isn't trying to be extreme, it's trying to be perfect. And in doing so, it becomes something deeply unusual.
Number 4. The Facel Vega Facel 2 isn't the kind of car that makes itself known with a roar, a rumble, or a flash of flamboyant aggression. It doesn't scream for attention like a muscle car tearing down the strip, nor does it glitter like a supercar designed to dazzle cameras and crowds. Instead, it arrives with quiet authority, the kind that forces your attention almost subconsciously. It doesn't need to shout, it already commands your focus by existing. On paper, the Facel 2 seems like a marriage made in automotive heaven. French sophistication, elegance, and a keen sense of proportion and style, paired with raw American muscle in the form of Cadillac or Chrysler V8 engines. Every line, every curve, every detail seemed meticulously calculated to balance beauty, power, and presence. Its interior was no less impressive, wrapped in sumptuous leather, rich wood, and chrome accents that whispered refinement with every touch. The steering wheel felt perfectly weighted, the instruments were a harmony of clarity and style, and the cabin exuded confidence and composure, inviting its occupants to take their seats in a world where style and speed coexisted effortlessly. But perfection on paper often struggles when faced with the reality of the road. The Facel 2 was, in truth, a paradox, magnificent yet fragile, glorious yet demanding. Ownership wasn't just about pride or indulgence, it was about commitment, knowledge, and vigilance. Parts were scarce, often requiring weeks or months to procure, and even routine maintenance was an adventure into the unknown.
Each turn of a wrench or adjustment of a carburetor carried the risk of discovering some hidden flaw, some quirk that only a car as complex and exclusive as this could possess. Driving it wasn't a simple task, it was an experience that demanded respect and care. One owner famously remarked, "Owning it felt like owning something secret," and the observation is remarkably apt. The Facel 2 was a private luxury, a hidden jewel that existed in plain sight, appreciated fully only by those who understood its complexity, its elegance, and the raw power lurking beneath its polished exterior. Even its aesthetic presence played into the mystique. From a distance, it might appear just another luxury Grand Touring, but as you approach, its proportions, its stance, the subtle aggression in its long hood, and the confident sweep of its lines reveal a car that defies easy categorization. It's a French car with an American heart, a paradox of restraint and audacity. Every panel, every curve, every chrome accent seems to simultaneously invite admiration and caution. It's the kind of car that commands silence as much as it commands attention. You don't drive past it without noticing it. You stop, even unconsciously, to acknowledge it. It lingers in your vision, demanding reflection, even if your mind resists the distraction. Yet for all its beauty and power, the Facel 2 was doomed to remain an enigma. Its price put it out of reach for all but the wealthiest enthusiasts. Its rarity made it both coveted and impractical, and its complexity meant that it required an owner willing to accept not just the thrill of the machine, but the anxiety of maintaining it. The paradox of the Facel 2 is that its very perfection made it unsustainable. A car designed to be admired, respected, and experienced deeply, but too precious to see every day, too fragile to become ordinary. Its legacy became one of myth, whispered through stories and photographs, glimpsed in auctions or museums, remembered in the tales of those who had the privilege of commanding it on the road. Each mile was a delicate dance, each journey a meditation on the balance between indulgence and fragility, power and refinement, secrecy and exposure. And then, as if to remind us that the boundaries of the automobile are limitless, the road moves on, leading from the quiet elegance of the Facel 2 into something far stranger, far more perplexing, something that challenges the very notion of what a car is, and whether any rules of design, engineering, or logic even apply to it. Where the Facel 2 whispered secrets, this next creation screams enigmas. Where the Facel 2 balanced audacity with restraint, this one abandons restraint entirely, embracing an identity that is wholly its own. It isn't about comfort, luxury, or legacy. It is about the very idea of existing as something else entirely. And in that audacity, it becomes unforgettable. A reminder that the world of automobiles is never truly bound by reason, and that the line between the sublime and the absurd is far thinner than we ever imagined.
Number 5. The Amphicar Model 770 doesn't just challenge expectations, it obliterates them. Here is a car that refuses to acknowledge the boundaries we insist upon, the line between road and water. Built by Hans Trippel, a man obsessed with the idea of a vehicle that could operate seamlessly on land and water, the Amphicar Model 770 is the result of audacity, ingenuity, and perhaps a little madness. It is, in the most literal sense, a car that walks, or rather floats, on both worlds. From the outside, it looks almost normal, a compact four-door coupe neatly styled with lines that hinted 1960s optimism rather than apocalypse. But glance closer and subtle cues reveal its true identity. Twin propellers at the rear, drainage holes in the wheel wells, and a chassis sealed to keep the cabin dry when you transition from asphalt to the nearest riverbank. There's an elegance to it, a quiet confidence, as if it knows something you don't. The real magic, of course, is revealed the moment you approach water. Unlike modern amphibious vehicles, there is no button to press, no complex mechanical transformation. The Amphicar doesn't pause to shift modes or engage complex systems. It simply continues moving forward. You drive straight into the lake, river, or bay, and the wheels that once gripped tarmac begin to churn through water, supplemented by the hidden propellers. The transition feels like an act of alchemy. One early driver described the moment, "Your brain tells you to stop, that this isn't possible, but the car keeps going. It's surreal. You expect it to float for a moment and then sink, But it doesn't. It just moves. The first time behind the wheel, it is both exhilarating and terrifying. Every instinct tells you to slam on the brakes, to retreat, to respect the laws of nature, yet the amphicar refuses to acknowledge those instincts. It glides forward as if daring you to trust it, transforming an ordinary lakefront into a stage of impossible adventure. Owners recounted that passengers often laughed nervously, half in delight, half in fear, their hands gripping the edges of the seat as the world changed beneath them. The water becomes both playground and challenge. Currents, waves, and wind now interact with a car that was never meant to behave like any other. It is an object of fascination, yes, but also a subtle lesson in surrender. Learning to trust a machine in defiance of everything your senses insist is safe. And yet, as miraculous as it seems, it was never perfect. The amphicar wasn't particularly fast on land, top speeds barely exceeded modern sedans of its time, and in water it moved with gentle dignity rather than jet-like speed. Maintenance was tricky. Seals had to remain intact, propellers free of debris, and even the most minor rust could compromise its amphibious magic. But these flaws did nothing to diminish its singular allure. If anything, they made it more human, more believable as a machine that existed at the edge of possibility rather than in the center of practicality. There's a certain poetic danger in the amphicar, a thrill that lingers in memory long after the engine cuts. Owners often spoke of it like an old friend with secrets, someone who could carry you across a lake, back to shore, then down the road without missing a beat. One recalled, "It's like the world splits in two and you get to exist in both at once, but never for too long. You remember that the lake is unforgiving and yet you feel exhilarated anyway." And then, when you think the imagination has been stretched as far as it can go, the road or the water ends. The amphicar glides into history, an improbable relic of ingenuity, leaving the mind itching for the next impossible vision. And that's when something appears that feels like it was pulled straight from a dream. Not a car, not a machine, something that looks alive. Its lines curve impossibly, defying what you understand about physics, balance, and proportion. Its shape seems almost sculpted by thought rather than forged by engineering. Watching it, you're no longer in the realm of reality at all. You're in a place where fantasy has taken tangible form. It doesn't hint at functionality, it hints at wonder. Where the amphicar demanded belief and trust, this next creation demands awe and surrender. A car, perhaps, but one that makes every other vehicle you've seen before it feel like a compromise. It exists entirely on its own terms, and you are left to follow, mesmerized, as it moves like a creature that has no regard for ordinary rules.
Number 6. The Stutz Black Hawk doesn't merely exist on the road. It demands to be seen, acknowledged, even worshipped. Where most cars from the 1970s seemed content to glide along highways unnoticed, the Black Hawk arrived like a thunderclap in a world that had largely embraced understated luxury. Built by the Stutz Motor Company, it was less about practicality and more about spectacle, a statement in steel and leather that told anyone who saw it that you had arrived and that your arrival mattered. Its design was audacious, almost theatrical. Exposed spare wheels graced the sides like ornaments on a carriage from another era, while long, sweeping fenders and bold, angular lines gave it a presence that could dominate any street or parking lot. The interior was equally over the top. Thick leather seats, plush carpeting, polished wood dashboards, and chrome accents that seemed to reflect not only light, but status itself. Every detail screamed exclusivity, opulence, and an almost excessive pride in craftsmanship. Celebrities adored it. There are stories of Hollywood stars parading down Sunset Boulevard in their Blackhawks, waving to onlookers as though they were royalty in an automotive court. It was a car that turned sidewalks into red carpets, that transformed mundane errands into performances. But the same features that enthralled the rich and famous made ordinary observers uneasy. For many, it wasn't just a car, it was a spectacle too grand for daily life, a machine that imposed its personality on everyone around it. One observer summed it up perfectly. It doesn't just drive, it performs. And that performance, while exhilarating for some, felt intrusive for others, as if the car itself refused to blend in with the world. The mechanics, while competent, were almost secondary to the drama. Underneath its flamboyant exterior sat solid American V8 powertrains, capable of propelling the Blackhawk with surprising force. But acceleration, handling, and ride comfort were measured not against performance metrics, but against the emotional impact the car had on its environment. Driving a Blackhawk wasn't about efficiency, it was about presence. Every curve of the road became part of a stage, every intersection a potential audience. Owners reported a strange psychological phenomenon. Even on quiet streets, you could feel the car's personality influencing other drivers, drawing attention, commanding space, and asserting authority without a single word. Yet the Blackhawk's very extravagance limited its appeal. Maintenance was costly, parts were rare, and it was cumbersome in daily life. For those who valued subtlety, practicality, or ease of use, the car was almost absurd, a relic of an era when flamboyance could be engineered and packaged for sale. But for the few who understood it, it became a secret indulgence, a daily thrill wrapped in a costume of luxury, history, and audacity. Owners often described it as a living thing, demanding care, attention, and respect, rewarding them with the strange satisfaction of wielding something almost mythic on ordinary streets. And yet, for all its drama and allure, the Stutz Blackhawk was still fundamentally a car grounded in the familiar. Wheels turned, engines roared, steering responded. The ordinary rules of motion and mechanics still applied. It was extravagant, yes, but understandable. Its theatrics, while extreme, didn't question the very essence of what a car could be. Then the road turns, and the familiar rules start to crumble. Suddenly, you see something that looks less like a vehicle and more like a concept materialized in metal and glass. It's a design experiment pushed to its furthest extreme, where proportions have been stretched beyond comfort, surfaces curve and taper in ways that defy expectation, and the relationship between driver and machine feels uncertain. You wonder if it was intended to function or simply to provoke thought, to test the limits of your imagination. The wheels may be there, yes, but their placement, their scale, and their angle hint at something otherworldly. The cockpit seems impossibly narrow or impossibly wide, as if the designers ignored every convention and asked, what would a car look like if nothing mattered but a vision? It is beautiful. It is confusing. It is unsettling. And as it glides, or even just rests in front of you, you realize that the Stutz Blackhawk, for all its grandeur, was merely a prelude. This new machine isn't performing. It is daring you to reconsider what a car is, what it can be, and whether even the laws of design are meant to contain it.
Number 7. The Plymouth Prowler doesn't so much arrive as it parades. It doesn't settle into traffic, it forces traffic to acknowledge it. Built by Plymouth at the tail end of the 20th century, the Prowler was a bold, almost theatrical reinterpretation of the classic hot rod, meant to evoke nostalgia while still feeling startlingly modern. Open, spindly front wheels jut from the chassis like claws. A low, slung body curves dramatically toward the rear, and exaggerated fenders stretch with tension as if the car were constantly ready to leap forward. Every angle, every line, every chrome accent seems designed to provoke a reaction, astonishment, awe, or even disbelief. It's the kind of car that makes pedestrians stop mid-step and drivers double-take, questioning reality for a moment before resuming their day. From the outside, it feels like art, sculptural, hyper-stylized, and intensely deliberate. But the paradox of the Prowler is immediately apparent the moment you sit behind the wheel. For all its aggressive stance and feral appearance, the mechanical reality is far tamer than the styling suggests.
Beneath the aluminum panels lies a front-engine, rear-wheel drive chassis derived from Chrysler's Neon and Intrepid platforms. Power comes from a modest 3.5-liter V6, not exactly the ferocious beast its appearance promises. Steering is precise, braking is competent, and acceleration is adequate but restrained. The Prowler looks like it should tear through the quarter-mile in a frenzy of smoke and noise, yet instead it delivers measured, almost polite performance. One early driver summed it up perfectly. It looks like speed, but doesn't feel like it. And therein lies its contradiction. Its power is in appearance, in presence, in the thrill of being seen rather than in raw velocity. That contradiction defined the Prowler's life. Buyers were torn between excitement and disappointment, awe and disbelief. They purchased a car that made the world stop and stare, yet couldn't provide the visceral rush that its form promised. Owners described strange psychological duality. Driving the Prowler felt like inhabiting a dream, yet a dream tempered with limitations. It was a car that existed in a space between fantasy and reality, offering the sensation of freedom while still tethered by mechanical and practical constraints. Yet even those constraints became part of the allure. The very mismatch between expectation and reality made every glance from a passerby, every comment of admiration feel earned. The car demanded attention without force, creating a spectacle not by speed or power, but simply by being. Despite the mildness of its mechanics, the Prowler cultivated a presence that few cars could match. Every stoplight became a stage, every parking lot became a gallery. Owners became performers and the car the centerpiece of a public theater. Its open wheels, its elongated nose, its low, sweeping profile all contributed to a sense of motion, even when stationary. Children gawked, adults whispered, and photographers always seemed to appear at precisely the right moment. Even today, the Prowler carries that same aura, a car whose legend is less about what it could do and more about how it made the world feel in its presence. And then, as all dramatic performances eventually fade, the scene changes. Where the Prowler demanded spectacle, attention, and admiration, the road opens up for something quieter, subtler, and almost invisible. A car that almost disappears into its surroundings, one whose presence requires patience and focus to notice. Unlike the Prowler, it does not flaunt open wheels, dramatic fenders, or exaggerated proportions. Its lines are understated, almost shy, yet every curve and contour is intentional. There is a quiet precision to it, an elegance born not from theatrics, but from economy of design. Inside, the interior is functional, stripped of excess, yet comfortable and intelligent in its simplicity. Every element exists for a reason. Nothing is superfluous. Nothing is merely decorative. Driving this tiny, almost imperceptible car is an exercise in subtlety. It doesn't demand your attention, it earns it. Its charm is not in shock or spectacle, but in the realization that this small, simple machine can evoke more wonder than a dozen exotic supercars. It reminds you that presence does not always require volume, that grandeur does not always need mass, and that simplicity, executed with intent, can be profoundly captivating. Where the Prowler shouted, this car whispers. Where the Stutz Black Hawk performed, this one exists quietly, yet its perfection makes you look twice. It teaches you that sometimes the smallest and most unassuming machines can leave the deepest impressions, lingering in memory long after louder, flashier vehicles have faded from sight. And in that quiet, unobtrusive brilliance, you recognize something remarkable, that the essence of automotive magic isn't always in drama, power, or spectacle. Sometimes it is in restraint. Sometimes it is in subtlety. Sometimes it is in the almost invisible, the nearly forgotten, the tiny car that almost disappears, but once discovered, stays with you forever.
Number 8. The Peel 50 doesn't just challenge expectations, it annihilates them. Built by the tiny Peel Engineering Company, the P50 is the embodiment of absolute minimalism taken to extremes. Forget everything you know about cars. Forget performance. Forget comfort. Forget practicality. This is a vehicle that reduces motoring to the barest essence of what it must be. A seat, a steering wheel, and a single wheel to move you forward. Beyond that, it flirts with absurdity. One door, one seat, 3 wheels, 2 at the rear, 1 at the front, and no reverse gear. Literally none. If you need to back up, you pick it up. Yes, physically lift it with your hands and rotate it. It sounds impossible. It sounds like satire, but it is and was real. Sitting inside the P50 is a surreal experience. Your legs barely have room to stretch. The door closes so close to your knees that it feels more like stepping into a capsule than entering a car. The pedals are tiny, almost comically proportioned, and the engine, a modest 49cc 2-stroke, emits a high-pitched buzz rather than a roar. There is no insulation from the elements, no luxuries, no false sense of safety. You are entirely exposed, entirely responsible, and entirely aware that the world around you has vastly outsized proportions compared to your vehicle. Every pothole, every curb, every pedestrian becomes monumental. Driving it requires focus, balance, and a willingness to embrace the absurd. And yet, people drove it. They navigated city streets, squeezed through narrow lanes, and zipped past cars 20 times their size, all while perched in a machine smaller than a modern suitcase. Owners reported a strange combination of exhilaration and constant disbelief. One driver recalled, "It's like sitting on top of a skateboard with an engine. Every turn feels like a risk, every stop feels like a small triumph. People stare, laugh, sometimes shout, and you just keep going." There is something pure about that experience, a raw, unfiltered engagement with motion that modern cars rarely allow. It is not about speed or performance. It is about daring to exist in a machine that defies every assumption about what a car should be. The P50 also reveals a peculiar, almost philosophical quality. Its extreme limitations force you to confront the essence of driving, the interaction of human, machine, and environment. There is no hiding behind power or luxury. There is no exaggeration or theatrics. You cannot outrun reality. Every motion, every pedal press, every turn is a dialogue between you and the vehicle, a compact, mechanical conversation with the world. The absurdity of lifting it to reverse suddenly becomes a lesson in humility, in creativity. It is a car that refuses to compromise its tiny identity for conventional convenience. It insists on existing entirely on its own terms. And yet, perhaps most astonishing of all, it works. Despite its ludicrous proportions and the occasional disbelief it inspires, it transports people from one place to another. It functions in a way almost magical in its simplicity, like a toy engineered for real-world consequences. Streets, curbs, garages, traffic all become a stage where the P50 performs a quiet, persistent defiance of reason. It embodies both humor and genius, simultaneously ridiculous and extraordinary, impossible and utterly functional. So, when you stand before the P50, you are confronted with a paradox. It is the smallest, simplest, and most absurd car ever made, yet it demands attention, respect, and a certain kind of admiration. It reminds us that the world of automobiles isn't just about speed, luxury, or power. Sometimes it's about audacity, imagination, and the courage to make a car that shouldn't exist, and yet does. And when you consider the full line of incredible vehicles that came before it, the 6-wheeled Covini C6W, the amphibious Amphicar, the jet-inspired GM Firebird, the Stutz Blackhawk, the radical Plymouth Prowler, the P50 seems almost like a whisper after a series of shouts, a tiny, defiant punctuation mark that proves size, complexity, and drama aren't required to make an indelible mark on automotive history. It is, quite simply, a car that almost vanishes into reality, and yet refuses to be ignored.